everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back to another Q&A video. I am going to start this video in the most Canadian way with an apology. This video is celebrating 500 subscribers 2.0, mainly because when I did my original Q&A video, I had copied and pasted all of the questions into a document so that I could read them off and then, answer your questions. So that was great. Then, when I went back to that document to tag all of the booktubers in the comments and make sure that I had everybody, I tagged Shelley Swearingen, and I couldn't remember answering her question. And it turns out that I didn't answer her questions. So I had skipped right over them, and they were there, but I totally missed them. So Shelley, I am so sorry, and I hope that you can forgive me. I am all set to answer your questions today. And others as well, since after posting that video, there was a discussion and a few more questions came in, and I thought, why not just answer all of them? So there's a few questions here. I will answer those, and then I also want to do a recap on Canada Reads, which took place this past week. So I will share a few thoughts on that. So let's get started with some questions. So first up is the amazing, the incredible Shelley Swearingen. Hi, Shelley. So Shelley asked, favorite book series of all time? And besides hot chocolate, what's your favorite beverage? So thank you for your questions, Shelley. To be honest, I don't do well with series. The only series that I can think of that I have read the entire series, at least so far, since some of them, probably aren't finished, is Jane Auel's The Earth Children, the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon, and the You series by Caroline Kepnes. I have read from other series, but not in their entirety. So the pool is kind of limited. But if I were to choose between those three, I think I would go with the Outlander series. It's held my interest the longest. The Earth's Children, I've read them all, but really, I only enjoyed the first 3 out of the 6 books. The You series, I finished the 3rd book last month, and it's already starting to kind of take a nosedive for me. With Outlander, I have read all of the 9 books so far, and I know that I will read the 10th when it comes out. So those characters have stuck with me the most. So I'm going to go with Outlander on this one, Shelley. And I know you've started it. So, as for my favorite beverage, besides hot chocolate, I drink a lot of water. So I know that's kind of boring. My favorite alcoholic beverage would be either a strawberry daiquiri or a brown cow. But just to drink every day, it's water. I also like a particular ginger and honey tea. That is a real comfort. So thanks for your questions, Shelley. I hope that those answers were worth the wait. So next up, these questions are from The Quiet Midden, who first asked Jasper or Banff, and said you can't say both. So in short, Banff. Both are beautiful. But I think that my reasoning is that Banff is closer. It's only an hour drive away. We've, gone just for dinner and the ride and then come home. Whereas Jasper is more of a commitment. So, The Quiet Midden also says, my question is about music and travel since you love both. Have you had any special and or unexpected musical experiences while traveling? I love this question. Thanks for that. I've had 2 experiences that come to mind. The first thing that popped into my mind was the summer of 2015. I went to Boston with my friend Pauline, and we were there for, I think, a week, maybe just over a week, and we had tickets to 2 concerts, both at Fenway Park. So the first concert was James Taylor and Bonnie Raitt. It was awesome. And the second concert was the Zac Brown Band. And they were playing Fenway Park for 3 nights in a row, and we were catching the 3rd night. So we go back to Fenway Park, and they had 1 or 2 opening acts, which they weren't all that great to me. Zac Brown Band was phenomenal. And after their first set, they said that they were going to come back in about 20 minutes with a special guest. So we didn't really think a whole lot about it at that point. My friend Pauline thought maybe they were going to have one of the opening acts come back. And I don't know, I was like, no, it's got to be bigger than that. So the Zac Brown Band comes back out on stage. They sing, I think, a song or two. And then they start announcing that a special guest is with them. So I thought, I better have my camera ready just in case. And as I get it going, they introduce Steven Tyler, the lead singer of Aerosmith. I don't know that I have to explain that, but the place went nuts. And my friend and I just looked at each other in disbelief. So Steven Tyler came out and sang Sweet Emotion and then Walk This Way, and it was amazing. If I can find video for that, I will add it in, if I can. I'm not sure if I can, but there might be some swearing too because people were very excited. But if I can put some of it in, I will. It will not be anywhere near what the actual experience was like.
Greatest entertainers of all time, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all welcome Mr. Steven Tyler.
That something cool like that happened was in 2018. I was going to New York, and I love New York, and pre-COVID I would usually go to New York once or twice a year. So as part of my 40 Adventures at 40, which I talked about in the first Q&A video, I was going to see Billy Joel at Madison Square Gardens, and I was going with my friend John. So now that was near the end of my time there. So at the beginning of the trip, I was going to see Bruce Springsteen on Broadway, and that experience didn't count as an adventure because I had already seen Bruce Springsteen in concert. And my friend Terry, who you might remember if you watched the first video, she was the person who did the edge walk. She was in that video. So she said, how can that not be an adventure? And I just said, it just doesn't fit the criteria. It doesn't mean that it's not amazing. It totally was. But seeing Bruce in concert is incredible. seeing his one-man Broadway show was something else. Really, really cool. Anyway, I think it was the day before Billy Joel concert. I received this email from Madison Square Garden announcing that the concert that we were going to was a really big deal. I mean, it's Billy Joel, but it was Billy Joel's 100th concert at Madison Square Gardens, and that had never happened before. So I showed John the email, and I said, "Did you know this?" And he says, "No," but he says, usually when it's a big concert like that, they have special guests. And I'm like, "No way, that would be really cool." And so the next day we go to the concert, and sure enough, we receive this banner kind of thing. I probably have it somewhere here that it says 100 shows, Billy Joel, MSG, and the concert is incredible. He plays all the songs you want him to, with even more that are just perfect. And then he says he has a special guest, and he introduces Bruce Springsteen. So the two of them did one or two songs together. Bruce got up on the piano at one point. It was so awesome. And I think I still have the set list from that night and some pictures. So if I do, I will put those up. You might even be looking at them right now. So the next day, Billy Joel's concert and Bruce Springsteen are in the paper. And my friend Terry messages me with a link to the article saying, "Now that's an adventure." And it really was. It was really cool, especially since it was, a total coincidence that this was the 100th show. And I basically bookended my visit with Bruce Springsteen. And I joked that the boss kept following me around Manhattan. So I've added the other question that you asked too, which was, do you have a favorite fictional work that includes musical elements or musicians? I have a lot of nonfiction books in mind. I did just talk about a book in my March wrap-up called The Happy Ever Playlist, I think that's what it is, where each chapter is named after a well-known song. That's by Abby Jimenez. One of my favorite books from Lisa Genova called Every Note Played has a main character who is a famous pianist. A book that I haven't read yet, but that I'm hoping will have some musical elements, is called The Music Shop by Rachel Joyce. And let's see, another book that's been on my radar for a while is called Musical Chairs. And I can't remember who that author is right now, but I'll put it in the description box below. But I will have to update you once I read some of those books. So if anyone has any recommendations, please put them in the comments below, and we'll all share. So thanks for those questions. And the Quiet Minute also mentioned reading Disorientation by Ian Williams, and said that there's a section that he had an interaction with Margaret Atwood, and asks if I have read it. So I love Ian Williams. I have his novel Reproduction that I still need to read, and I have read several of his poetry books, and I have Disorientation on my wish list. Ian Williams, for those who don't know, is a Canadian author that is really doing well, won the Giller, and I'm not sure what the interaction with Atwood is in the book, but Ian tells a story about the first book that he ever bought was an Atwood book, and she's been very supportive of him. He won the Giller a few years ago, and then had a full circle moment since, of course, Atwood was there. And the thing about Ian Williams is he really is what you see. If you ever get a chance to have a chat with him, he's just really cool. So thanks for reminding me to put his books higher up on the priority list. Rebecca is one of my friends from Canada Reads American Style, and she asked, how do you film so much for BookTube? And Rebecca just recently retired, so congratulations again, Rebecca. And she says that she still can't keep up with my content. So right now it's been a bit more than usual, quite a bit more, because of Canada Reads, 500 subscribers, the BookTube prize, and all of my usual content. So typically I like to film 2 to 3 videos a week, Mondays and Fridays, which is just my regular content, hauls, wrap-ups, and the different series that I've committed myself to. But then on Tuesdays, I try to put out a tag video if there's one that someone has tagged me in, or if there's one that I want to do. And I am horrible at staying ahead, so I am not very disciplined with that. But I do still manage to get the videos out at some point. I also don't beat myself up if it goes out on a Saturday instead of a Friday, which is what happened this weekend with my video yesterday. So I just ran out of time, and it still needed to be edited. So I think it seems like a lot, but as long as I'm still having fun doing it, and I don't feel pressured, then it's all good. But I know that there are some booktubers who post way more than I do, but I don't really want to go more than 3 a week on a normal basis. It's a bit too much for me. I'm usually only filming a day or 2 ahead, sometimes the day of, so I think there's a lot of room for me to improve. But thank you, Rebecca. Next, this is from Shannon's Bookish Musings and Music. Hi, Shannon. Shannon asks, did you film the video footage in your beautiful intro yourself? I love the moose. So I answered this. I think I answered this in the comments, but I can expand on it here. Yes, I did film that. I filmed everything in my intro and outro. So my cousins were visiting, and we went to Banff, and we saw lots of wildlife. We saw some deer, we saw a fox, and on the way back I noticed that people were going a lot slower. So I said to them, there must be something up ahead, it's probably an animal. And sure enough, there was a baby moose and its mother. So we did everything you're not supposed to do. We got out of the car, to take pictures and to film. But these moose, who just wanted to lick the ice on the road. So we were there for quite some time, and the moose attracted a lot of attention. So I've seen moose a number of times. That was probably my 3rd time seeing it like that. I've seen them in northern BC and in Algonquin in Ontario. But this was my first, welcome to Alberta moose. So it was exciting. So thanks, Shannon, for your question. Okay, so we have a couple more here. Maria from Read Fine Books has a few questions. The first one is, what's your least favorite genre to read? Meaning that you tried it once and really didn't like it, or didn't even try it, and it's not for you. The other question is, what's a book that disappointed you? Not worth the hype. And did you read other Jane Austen books, or just Pride and Prejudice? And if so, how would you rank them? Would you quit your job to become a full-time booktuber, if that was possible? Or does your job with the church provide more meaning? And do you only read in English? I know there is a French in part of Canada. I just don't know if you live there. And do you know French as well? And which Canadian author is your favorite? And then it says the last one, which question surprised you the most? So something that you never thought people were interested in knowing about you. These are all great questions. Thanks, Maria. So my least favorite genre to read is fantasy. I don't do well with it, but of course there are exceptions to that, and it doesn't mean that I won't try fantasy again. A book that disappointed me. I think I'm going to go with The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I know I've just recently talked about this, so I was trying to think of another book, but this one is pretty fresh, as I still haven't been able to finish it. It probably doesn't help that there's a bit of a fantasy element to it as well. I just don't understand why everyone thinks that this is such an amazing book. But it does have a pretty cover. So what was the next one here? Okay, so did you read other Jane Austen books? So I read Pride and Prejudice last year. It was my favorite book. I've read 3 Jane Austen books so far. and I have plans to read at least one, if not two more this year if I can fit that in. So my number one is Pride and Prejudice. That was just such a delight to read. My number two is Northanger Abbey, which I read as a group read. And my number three is Emma. Emma is the first book that I read by Jane Austen, and I really struggled through it. So the next question, would I quit my job to become a full-time booktuber? Yeah, maybe. I think I would at least consider it. I don't think I'm anywhere near, being able to become a full-time booktuber, but if the opportunity presented itself, I think I would at least consider it. It's true, I do love my job, but there are many ways of serving people, and there is volunteer work as well, so maybe at some point I would consider other things. Okay, do you only read in English? Yes. I don't speak fluent French. I understand very little. I speak less than that, and I read less than that. So French is spoken all over Canada, but mostly in our province of Quebec. There are also a few French communities in Ontario and in New Brunswick. Speaking another language, for anyone who speaks another language, that's something that I really admire in other people. So the next question, this is the tough one. Which Canadian author is your favorite? Oh boy, well, I can never say just one. And I am going to start with John Irving, who is now a Canadian citizen and may even have actually dual citizenship, American and Canadian. But I'm going to claim him on this. I really like Emma Donoghue. She's an Irish Canadian who lives in London, Ontario. For Indigenous writers, maybe I love Richard Wagamese and Thomas King. Katarina Vermette is quickly becoming a favorite as well. Mary Lawson, Anne-Marie MacDonald, Terry Follis. You mentioned Ian Williams. And I would put him down as a favorite poet, at least, until I read more of his work. And if you're looking for a thriller, I would suggest Linwood Barclay. There are some authors, that I really like, but I've only read one of their books, or they've only written one book so far. So until I read more, until they write more, I will just kind of keep them on my radar. And there's one more from Maria. She says, and the last one, which question surprised you the most? Really all of them. I didn't think people would really want to know anything about me, or that people find me interesting. I just talk about books, but I'm also happy that people did have questions. And I appreciated the questions about CanLit, because I think people know that, I do try and promote Canadian writers, and, that was a nice way of kind of acknowledging that, and also learning more about Canadian books. So, about me personally, the questions about adventure were great, and travel, that's always fun. But really, I'm happy to answer anything. So, thanks for all of your questions, Maria. These were all fun to answer too, so that's great. Spread Book Joy. Hi, Jack. So Jack says, my question is, which are your favorite bookish female friendships, and which book character would be your bosom friend? So thanks, Jack. The easy and obvious answer would be Anne of Green Gables. And I do think that we really would be bosom friends, I should say. We have a lot in common. As for female friendships, that is one of my favorite themes, I guess, in literature. From books I've read this year, I'm thinking like Snowflower and the Secret Fan by Lisa C. The two main characters have, I think it's called a Lautong or Lutong relationship. And then in my March wrap-up, I talk about Miss Benson's Beetle by Rachel Joyce. I also mentioned in the other Q&A The Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood by Rebecca Wells. And that book kind of reminds me of two other books that I never hear other people talk about. Angry Housewives Eating Bonbons by Lorna Landvik. So great. And then the other one that I was thinking of is The Saving Graces by, I think it's Patricia Gaffney or something like that. I will double check and put it in the description box below. And then another Lisa C. novel that I adored that has an incredible female friendship is The Island of Sea Women. And another one that has always stayed with me is Summer Sisters by Judy Blume. It's one of her adult books, and I absolutely loved it. There's so many, but those are, a few that I can think of off the top of my head. The Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd, and even her, I'm looking at it right now, even her book, The Red Tent, as well. So if anyone has any that they would like to add, please put your recommendations in the comments. Beaches by Iris Dart, I think it is. That's another good one. It's the book that the movie is based off of. Okay, next. I could go on forever. Okay, I think that's all for the questions. I'm hoping that I didn't skip over anyone this time. Please, I hope that's true. So thanks again for all of the questions, everyone, and for following along with me on this channel. I am so grateful. So now I just want to give some final thoughts on what happened this week with Canada Reads. If you are not familiar with, what is this Canada Reads thing, it is an annual book competition in which 5 defenders debate for 4 days to find the one book that all of Canada should read. And I will leave links below to, previous videos where I talk about it and explain it, and also to the Canada Reads website. So when I did my prediction video of how I thought the books would be voted off, it turned out that I was right for the first, second, and third book. And then on the last day, when it was a battle between these 2 books here, 5 Little Indians by Michelle Good and Scarborough by Catherine Hernandez, I said I would be happy with either of these winning. And I predicted Scarborough would win, but in the end, 5 Little Indians won, and I am thrilled. So this brings me to my thoughts on the competition itself. This year, first of all, if you watched the debates, please let me know in the comments below, what your thoughts are, because I would love to hear, where you are with this. I thought that this year was how Canada Reads should be every year. I already talked a bit about this on the podcast that I did with my friends at Canada Reads American Style, and I will leave links to their channel below as well. So you can see the interview that we did with Ali Hassan, and who is the host of Canada Reads, and you can listen to the podcasts that they did, the recaps that they did each day. So I wanted to make, I think, 3 points about the competition overall. First, the 5 books were all stellar. I cannot think of another year, at least in the time that I've been following along, where I was as impressed with the shortlist as I was this year. They couldn't really go wrong here. So that was a great foundation. Second, when they announced who the defenders were, they announced who they're going to be, and I'm not going to lie, I was a bit disappointed. I only knew one of them. So there was Christian Allaire. Had no idea who that was, but Christian is a Vogue fashion writer, and Christian was championing the winning book, 5 Little Indians. Malia Baker championed Scarborough, and she is now the youngest defender that Canada Reads has ever had, and I had never heard of her before. She's a young actress, and she's an activist, and you might know her from the Babysitters Club. Then the only defender that I knew was Tarek Haddad, and the irony of that is that Tarek is an immigrant to Canada and is now a Canadian citizen, and he's an entrepreneur. He runs the company Peace by Chocolate, which, if you haven't heard of them, you need to find out about them. You should totally check them out. They've also been doing some amazing things for the Ukraine. Suzanne Simard, again, never heard of her, but she is an ecologist or an environmentalist, and she's written a book that I really want to read called The Mother Tree. And then finally, Mark Tewksbury, who I probably watched on TV as a teenager, but never knew who he was. So Mark is a medal-winning Olympian and an LGBTQIA2S+ advocate. And I was talking about Mark today, and someone said, "Oh, the guy who hit his head." And it's like, no, that's Greg Louganis, who is an American Olympian, and I have talked about him on this channel before, but that's a different guy. So this brings me to what was most amazing about Canada Reads, I think, this year. These 5 defenders brought it. I have never seen the entire group of defenders for Canada Reads so prepared and so focused. And third, what I loved most is they kept it about the books. They didn't get personal with each other. Like, sometimes they would share personal things about themselves, but it was only to elevate the books. So they talked about the messages, the writing, the structure, the characters, and I think it was the first time in a long time, if not ever, that I felt they were truly trying to decide on the best book to put forward for our country right now. And maybe the last thing that I will say is that they all did such an amazing job. Malia held her own, like, at the age of 15. Suzanne, I thought, had a rocky first day. Once her book was voted out, though, like, I think she just relaxed, and she talked about, the other books so well. Tarek had some strategy going on, but you could tell he was passionate about his own book and very thoughtful with the other books going forward. Christian was a surprise. In the final day especially, I thought that he really fought and it paid off. But if I were to choose one person who raised the bar for every other defender who is ever going to be on Canada Reads, at least from now on, it was Mark Tewksbury. He blew me out of the water. Get it? Because he's a swimmer. Nothing? Okay. Seriously, the guy had so much game. As I said, I didn't know who any of these people were when they were, first announced. And I looked them up. Some of them had books, so of course that interested me, but I didn't really pay much attention other than that. So the week before the competition, I heard my friends on Canada Reads American Style interview Mark, and I was impressed. And when the competition started, I thought, he's the one to watch out for. And man, I think all of Canada was watching. So from his opening statement on the first day until the last episode when he cheered and gave props to the host, Ali, the guy handled the competition like a pro. There is only one small thing that I want to question Mark about, where the focus seemed a little bit off. I could be wrong, but I'd love the opportunity to ask him about it. And if I ever get the chance to do that, I will definitely keep you all posted on how that goes. It was overall a fantastic competition. Congratulations to Christian Allaire, who defended Five Little Indians, and to the author, Michelle Good, my Auntie Coco. Well deserved, and congratulations to all the defenders and authors. So please let me know in the comments below, if you do follow Canada Reads, what you thought of the whole competition this year, and what are some questions, if you have any, that you might like to ask the defenders. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments. Thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.